It's 21 years since the Brixham indoor pool was officially opened by Their Royal Highnesses the Duke and Duchess of Kent, but really our story starts some 50 years before. It was in the 1920s that the Brixham Amateur Swimming and Life-Saving Society first met, and if it wasn't for the solid foundations laid over many years, the Brixham indoor pool would never have become a reality.
Such is the heritage of the Brixham Swimming Club that we record that our president, Mrs. Gwen Grantonrath, and a past president, Mrs. Frida Evans, were very young members in those early days, and they have been members ever since, and they are still working for the good of the society. We all know what Showstone looked like these days, but originally it was just a very irregular pond formed by filling the gaps in a natural lagoon of rocks. Pre-war, the society developed very much in line with the development of the Showstone pool. In the 30s, rocks were cleared, and eventually the water area was to be extended to shape it to the large expanse of protected seawater that Brixhamites have enjoyed ever since. There was some competitive swimming and water polo in those days, although the main activities of the society was teaching and life-saving, with very strong connections with the local schools. After the war, the Showstone pool was put into service again, and the society was reformed. They organised weekly teaching and competition club nights at the pool during the summer. Interest in competitive swimming was boosted when John Disney became Brixham's first county champion, and a group of Brixham's promising swimmers started travelling to the Palace Hotel at Torquay for winter training sessions under professional coach Mr. Jack White. Galas at Showstone were a great attraction, and the natural terraces would be heaving with thousands of enthusiastic spectators. They enjoyed everything from Devon County Championships, open races, diving and water polo matches, and even bathing beauty competitions. When their converted air raid shelter headquarters in the car park was pulled down, the society decided to build their own. A few years of active fundraising followed, and in 1965, Miss Van Dyson, the president of the Chiroptimus Club, opened their new club hut overlooking Showstone Pool. Their effervescent president, the late Lady Bowles, graced the proceedings, and after sincerely thanking everyone, presented a cheque to cover the cost of the building to Councillor Miss Davis, the chairman of the Brixham Urban District Council. Jack White then gave the start for the opening dip, and delighted members eagerly plunged into the cold water. The club was always very active with a good social side. Their young members were treated to trips to the Panto, trips to the moors, tea parties and barbecues at Showstone, and of course there were always the unforgettable aqua frolics devised by dear old friend Mr. Bill Beach. Although they did their utmost to make the best of the very limited water time that they were able to secure at the Marine Spa Baths in Torquay, club officials became frustrated with the lack of indoor swimming facilities in Brixham. They realised that Torbay Council were very unlikely to provide an indoor pool at the Brixham end of the bay, and without indoor facilities, the club could never achieve their real ambitions. So what was the obvious answer? Let's build a teaching pool in Brixham. An extensive search started to find a suitable site or existing building, and then it was discovered that the Ashley Park extension had been purchased by the Brixham Council in about 1930 for the provision of sports facilities. There was still much red tape and planning difficulties to overcome, but with the persistent determination of the chairman, Mr. Vic Tomlin, planning permission was obtained, and Project Splash, an indoor heated pool for Brixham, was launched. Representatives of local organisations were present for the cutting of the first sod on July the 16th, 1972, and from then on volunteers gave up their spare time at evenings and weekends to toil for 2.5 years to complete this original project. The site levels were taken and the footings were dug out. Then the foundations were put in, ready for the erection of the steel framework. Mr. Albert Hoyle was casually walking his dog when he was asked to give advice on setting out the site. That was it. Albert was immediately captured by the spirit of the project, and he's never been able to escape. The club was also greatly indebted to Mr. Graham Fellows, who practically lived at Ashley Park and became the site foreman. The next aim was to build 3 walls and put the roof on, so the volunteer workers were able to work undercover with the aid of temporary lighting. Prudent management had meant that the society was well off, with nearly £2,000 in the bank at the start of the project, which was liberally expected to cost about £10,000. Various local appeals and all sorts of fundraising events were organised by the club, and as soon as the club was able to count on assets of £2,500, the chairman just spent it, buying a pool kit containing most of the materials needed to build, filter and heat a 25-metre pool. This was to be the story all the way along. As soon as there was money available or money promised, Vic immediately bought more materials, and so the project progressed, just ahead of inflation, which was beginning to run wild. The enthusiasm and determination of the volunteers, which included very few who were working at their trades, carried them successfully over many problems and setbacks, like when their luxurious site office was burnt down. Support and encouragement was received from many organisations. The Cheshire Homes organised this tramps ball. Support also came from the Chiroptimists, the Rotarians, the Round Table, the Ladies' Circle, and clubs, pubs, businesses and individuals. Money-making efforts included barbecues, coffee mornings, cheese and wine evenings, draws, jumbo sales, a second-hand shop, a sponsored swim, a collection at the Christmas tree, and a buy a brick house-to-house collection. 2 special newspaper supplements published by the Brixham News explained how the building work and fundraising was progressing. A copy was then delivered to every house in the town. And so the work progressed, and they started to excavate the pool area inside the building. After starting with mechanical diggers, much of the work had to be continued by hand until they were able to take levels and prepare for concreting. In a carefully organised operation, the complete pool bottom, using 146 of ready-mix concrete, was laid in one continuous operation, lasting about 6 hours. There was the installation of pipework and services, and of course there was always the constant provision of refreshments by the ladies of the kitchen. Workers then concentrated on building up the reinforced pool walls and closing in the open end of the pool. With the pool and building taking shape, they held a very successful enrolment morning in the bottom of the pool. They were also pleased to host a civic reception, as although the way the chairman generally approached the project was, to say in the least, rather unorthodox, support was received from the local authority. Their officers gave the project every encouragement, and even the Sports Council eventually came in with a small grant to assist in the completion of the pool. Once the pool was skimmed, it had to be filled with water, and this was done in August 1974. And the amateur builders can be justly proud that no traces of any leaks have ever been detected. With most of the heating and filtration plant installed, work continued on the lighting, tiling and carpentry, and it was felt that although there was still work to be done, the pool was ready to be used. The papers excitedly reported that the opening of the pool was imminent. The volunteers had their first dip on Boxing Day 1974 and the pool was opened to the public for the first time on the 6th of January 1975. The new Brixham indoor pool was the only one available to the public in South Devon, and during those first months our membership soared to nearly 2,000. All swimming had to be limited to hourly sessions as they were packed with people eager to get in the swim. It was very difficult to control the vast numbers, but we strived to introduce the constructive and progressive club teaching and training programme, which later became so successful. All the time the volunteers were striving to control the swimmers and run the pool, more volunteers were working to put the finishing touches to the building and plant. Then we had great news. Our chairman had done it again. Brixham Amateur Swimming and Life-Saving Society's unique pool project was to be honoured by the visit from Their Royal Highnesses the Duke and Duchess of Kent. What an exciting day that was to be. Their helicopter touched down behind the pool, and the royal visitors first went off to the breakwater, where they named the lifeboat. All our smartly dressed guests arrived at the pool to be received by the chairman and president, Mrs. Maggie Pope. As they expectantly waited, they were entertained by the accomplished display by our local girls and an impressive solo by single champion Jacinta Murray from Bristol. Their Royal Highnesses arrived to be introduced to our President and our indomitable Chairman, Mr. Vic Tomlin, and other club officials. They had a great reception with the pool hall as our floating girls spelled out ER on the water. The Duke then presented honorary life membership certificates to Chairman Vic, Albert Hoyle, Graham Fellows and Frida Evans. Our chairman, as always, came out with the right words, and as it was time to leave, he even recalled the Duchess to receive an orchid from our proud president. They said their goodbyes and returned to their helicopter, but not before the charming Duchess stopped to speak to a thrilled group of Cheshire Homes residents. The helicopter lifted off in the afternoon sun, and our guest retired to the community college to enjoy a celebration tea. But that was not the end of their task. The Society now had the responsibility of running and maintaining its pool, which offered a public service in addition to all its many club activities. Plus, they needed the continued full support of the town to make it financially sound. People of all ages and abilities were tempted to take the plunge. They found that they could enjoy with confidence the constant depth of the warm water. The volunteer builders now changed into their tracksuits to help on the poolside, and before long, everyone was involved in the club's comprehensive teaching system. They helped the Cheshire Homes residents, and in return, Nick Richards kindly did a sponsored swim.
The whole programme began to produce fabulous results. First, Brixham were the best in the Bay. Then they dominated Devon. Then they almost won the Western League. And their flourishing master squad, Vic's Angels, took top honours in a national competition in London. Surely they must be the most complete club in the country.
Well, actually they were. Their astute on-secretary of the day, Mr. Gilbert Head Rapson, entered a swimming time competition to find the most complete swimming club in England. Needless to say, Brixham was named the Amateur Swimming Association Club of the Year for 1979. The whole club put on a comprehensive display when ASA President Mr. John Zimmerman presented the handsome Optrex Trophy and £500. Although over the years the Society has produced scores of Devon and Western Counties champions, they take great pride in the fact that they have introduced many hundreds of local children to the challenge of competitive swimming. They proudly acknowledge the achievement of their international swimmers, including Commonwealth Games representative Linda Criddle, National Age Group champion Ian Panting, and their English Schools champion and Devon 1995 Swimmer of the Year, Neil Arts. But surely the greatest thrill and satisfaction must come from the knowledge that virtually every child in Brixham for 2 decades has enjoyed the Brixham pool and has been given the confidence and security of being at ease in the water. What a great service the pool has provided for the town. It really makes me want to dance.
So, as we celebrate 21 years of health and sport at the unique Brixham pool, we look forward to the future. But first we must look after the pool and put it to bed for another day.